actual ballerina now. So I'm going to click on the ballerina. And the first thing I want to happen is when the game starts, like my basketball, I don't want to see I don't want to see the ballerina. I want her to hide after she's clicked, right? But when the game starts, I want to make sure that she comes back. So I'm going to use my when the green flag is clicked block, use the hide block. So when the game starts, she's not there. Okay. So once I've done that, I want to now make sure that I see her when I get to the next background. Okay, so we want her to appear at the Opera House because that's where we would find the ballerina. So I'm going to go into my events block and I'm going to use the when the backdrop is switches block, and I'm going to change that to Sydney because that's the Opera House and that's where I want to see her. So I want her to show when the backdrop changes. Now, the next thing that I want her to do after she's appeared is I think it would be really nice if she did a little bit of a dance. Okay. So while Scratch Cat is explaining about his time at the Opera House, I want my ballerina to do a little bit of a dance on the screen there. So I'm going to get her to change her looks. And you can see in the looks menu, I've got a series of blocks which are about switching costumes. So I've got this one here. It says switch costume 2. Okay. So I'm just going to, I'm on D, so I'm going to start with C. And then I want her to maybe move a few steps. So I might change it to 2 steps. And then if she sort of touches the edge, like my basketball, I want her to bounce off. And then I might want her to change costumes again. So switch costumes to, let's do B. Okay, so let's test that out.
Hello. Yeah. First I went to the Sydney Opera House. It was beautiful.
Now, because I want her to be doing these movements a lot, so it looks like she's dancing, I'm going to actually put it in a repeat block. Okay, so I'm going to keep adding on to this code. So I want her to move again. So you can see she changed costumes, she moved, and then she's going to change costumes again. And I want her to move. And then I'm going to get her to change costumes again. And I want to put all of this inside a forever block like I did with my basketball. I want her to be doing this forever. So let's have a look at what that looks like.
Yeah. First I went to the Sydney Opera House. It was beautiful.
Now that I've organised for my ballerina to do a little bit of a dance, I want to now code her to change the backdrop to the next scene. So the next scene would be the Great Barrier Reef. So I'm going to use another event block, and I want to say when the sprite is clicked, so that when I click on her, then I want her to switch backgrounds to the Great Barrier Reef. So I want her to switch backgrounds, and there it is there, GBR, Great Barrier Reef. Okay. And I also want her to hide again. Okay, because I'm going to introduce a new sprite at the Great Barrier Reef background. So again, back in looks, I'm going to use the hide block. So let's test this out so far.
Hello. Yeah. First I went to the Sydney Opera House. It was beautiful.
Okay, there you go. So when I click on her, she hides. Perfect. Pause the video and see if you can do this much so far. Okay, so now that I've asked the ballerina when she's clicked on to switch the background and hide, I want her to play a sound, and the sound is about the Great Barrier Reef. So now I'm giving my users an indication of where I am and what I saw in this location. So again, I'm going to use the sound blocks and I'm going to play sound. And here I'm going to record, and I'm going to record. Next, I went up to Northern location. I didn't record. Next, I went to northern Queensland to visit the Great Barrier Reef. It was so beautiful. I got to go under the water and see some beautiful sea life, coral, fish, and other amazing things. So I'll rename it, code, and then change that. Okay. All right. So let's test it out.
Hello.
Click on the ball.
First, I went to the Sydney Opera House, northern Queensland, to visit the Great Barrier Reef. The Sydney Opera House is somewhere where you can watch theatre and opera and ballet. While I was there, I got to watch a beautiful show with the beautiful and other amazing things. Click on the ballerina to see where I went after the Sydney Opera House.
Okay, so now you can see, you could hear it playing in the background, which is perfect. Okay, now what I want to do here is I'm going to add on another sprite. And this other sprite is going to appear just in the Great Barrier Reef. And so therefore, if I'm at the Great Barrier Reef, I'm going to look for a sprite that would be something that I might see in the Great Barrier Reef. So I'm going to choose either a fish or some coral or something that might be specific for that location. So you can see if I look up fish, there's lots of different characters that I can use. So I might use I'll use this fish. Okay, so there's my beautiful fish, and like my ballerina, I don't want to see the fish when the game starts. So I'm going to, at the green flag, I want the fish to hide. Okay. And I only want to see the fish when I get to this Great Barrier Reef location. So I'm going to use the event block again, and I'm going to, when the backdrop switches to the Great Barrier Reef, I want to see the fish. So I want to show. So the other thing I want to do is I want my fish to swim around. So like my ballerina was dancing around, and my basketball was bouncing around, I want my fish to swim around. So, and I wanted to sort of change between the different fish costumes. So I'm going to use the looks block again, and I'm going to pick a couple of the switch costume blocks, and I'll just change it to B, and then maybe A, and then I'll do one more. Let's make it C. Okay, and then between all of these, I want the fish to just glide around. So back in motion, you can see I've got glide to random position. I'm just going to put that in there. And I want that to occur in a loop and a forever loop. So it just does it over and over and over again. So if we have a look now.
Hello.
Let's just quickly. All right,
next, I went to northern Queensland to visit the Great Barrier Reef. It was so beautiful. I got to go under the water and see some beautiful.
So I can even add in one more if I like. So add in that last costume, and then it will change to all the different fish that I can have with this particular sprite. So we've got A, B, C, and then D. Okay. All right. And so I also want this fish to act as the prompt to take me to my next location. So I'm going to use the when the sprite is clicked block. And again, I want this fish, when I click on it, to take me to the last place I went, which was Uluru. So in order to do that, I'm going to use one of these when the sprite is click block. I want to switch the backdrop to, and I'm going to select Uluru. So now when I click on the fish, it will take me to Uluru. Pause and see if you can add all of these codes so far. How did you go? All right, now we're going to finish this one off. So when we're in Uluru, I don't really want to see my fish anymore. So I'm going to get it to hide. Okay. And I'm also going to ask it to play the sound which talks about the place that we're visiting, the location. So I'm going to go into sound and I'm going to record a sound wave or a sound. Lastly, I went to the Northern Territory to Uluru. Did you know it's a really old and sacred location? It was so lovely and hot because it was in the middle of the desert. So I've just recorded some information. I'm going to save it, name it Uluru, and then change it to here. Now, before we go on, there's one more codes we have to add on to the ballerina, and it's the code that instructs the user to click on the ballerina, to click on the fish. Sorry, the click on the next sprite, which is the fish, so that it can go to Uluru. Okay, so I'm going to use another play sound block, and I'm going to record. Click on the fish to see where I went to next. Okay, so just an instruction block so that my users know how to go to the next part of the game. I name it fish and I name it fish there. And then I can also add on that look like I did for the other one, which was the text appearing. Click on the fish to see me next. So you'll notice it's the same code. I'm just changing the names of the different things to go to the different locations that I'm trying to access. So there's clicking on the fish.
Last year I went to the Northern Territory to Uluru.
Beautiful.
Did you know it's a really old and sacred location? It was so lovely and hot because it was in the middle of the desert.
Fantastic. All right, so you can see now I've pretty much come right to the last location. I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to add on another sprite, and I'm going to pick a sprite that I might find in the desert. So maybe something like a grasshopper, for example. Okay. Again, if I want to make it bigger, I can just change the size. So it's like a massive grasshopper. And this grasshopper, I don't want to see at the beginning of the game, like all my other sprites, but I do want to see it when we're in Uluru because it's unique to Uluru. So I've used the when the green flag is clicked, I want you to hide. When the backdrop switches to Uluru, I want you to show. Okay. And this is going to be my last sprite to end the game. So I want this particular sprite to, maybe I want it to move around. Go to random position. I might even put it in a forever block. Okay. And then what I would like it to do is basically, if it's clicked on, I want it to sort of say, thank you for coming on the journey with me. So I'm going to need another when the sprite is clicked, and I'm just going to play another sound. When you're ready, click on the grasshopper to go back to the beginning. Okay, so just a simple instruction, grass. I'm going to change pop to grass, and then I want it to change the background to the blue sky. And then I'm right back at the beginning. So you can see when I click on it.
When you're ready, click on the grasshopper to go back to the beginning.
All right. And then once it's there, I want it to hide. Okay. And that's the end of the game. Have a go and see what you can do. Make sure you take a screenshot and share your photo with me.